I've always said if you want a quiet life, never buy land in a place called Whispering Trails. Sounds peaceful, right? It's not. The first time I realized my little slice of Colorado heaven was about to become a war zone, I was standing on my porch, coffee in hand, thinking about retirement in Montana and how I might finally get out of the rat race. Never once crossed my mind that my next big fight wouldn't be with a mountain lion or a busted water heater, but with a woman in heels and a pastel blazer wielding more paperwork than common sense. Yeah, that happened. My place isn't some cookie-cutter house lost in a sea of beige boxes. It's mine, rough edges, wrap-around porch, garage full of half-finished projects, garden out back that's mostly tomatoes and stubborn weeds. The property line runs 30 feet past their precious HOA border. That was non-negotiable. Gave me just enough room to breathe, enough to keep the lawn police at bay. Peaceful. That's what it was supposed to be. Until Karen showed up. Let me back up a sec. I'd been planning to sell, get out before my knees gave up, move up to Montana, and finally build that cabin I'd been doodling on napkins since my Army days. I listed the house. Just quiet. Photos, specs, no fuss. First week, not much. Then one Tuesday, a silver Lexus rolls in, not a speck of dust on it. Out steps Karen Delmond, president of the Whispering Trails HOA, and let me tell you, she wore that title like armor. Clipboard in one hand, a smile sharp enough to draw blood. She went straight for the jugular, offering to buy my house for less than the damn roof cost. 47 grand, can you believe it? I laughed. Not polite either, just barked right in her face. Ma'am, this land's not your problem. That line ends there. She barely blinked, folding that ridiculous offer back into her folder. You're making this harder than it needs to be. She stalked off the porch, tossed the folder on my gravel, hissed something about not leaving her much choice, and sped off. I should have known then, when someone like that leaves without getting their way, it's never over. 2 days later, sunrise still hugging the treetops. I'm changing my truck's oil when 2 sheriff's cruisers roll up, like I'd called them. Not casual, not friendly. The older deputy locked eyes with me, hand resting on his belt, voice cool as a January wind. Mr. Nixon Hayes, you're under arrest. Assault and criminal threats, they said. Against Karen. I barely had time to get the grease off my fingers before I was cuffed and stuffed into the back seat like yesterday's trash. You know what it feels like to have your whole life turned upside down in less than a minute? I sure do now. At the station, they processed me like I was already guilty. No phone call, no lawyer, just a detective reading off Karen's story. That I shoved her, screamed threats, said I'd bury her in the backyard. Said her husband witnessed the whole thing. Never mind I hadn't touched her. Never mind I'd spent half that morning fixing the truck. Her word, their word, and suddenly mine meant nothing. 3 days in county felt like a lifetime. No windows, a bench for a bed, guards who treated you like you were already sentenced. And then came the kicker. DA's office called me in, tossed out new charges. Real estate fraud, construction without permits, occupying land I didn't own. All courtesy of documents from, you guessed it, Karen and the HOA, complete with doctored maps and diagrams that made it look like I'd built my home half on their land. Do you have your deeds? The prosecutor asked, all smug. Yeah, at home in my locked desk, where I'd been before they threw me in this cage. Just when I started to think I'd rot there, a voice came through the vent. Darnell, cellmate next door. You the dude with the HOA lady? She's got juice, man. Runs the PD, DA, probably the dog catchers, too. He wasn't wrong. At that point, it felt like I needed an exorcist, not a lawyer. Then something changed. A guard tapped my bars, voice urgent for once, dragged me down a hallway to a room I'd never seen. In walks a county investigator with a laptop. You Nixon Hayes? Not sure anymore, I muttered. He just flipped open a video, security footage from Megan Costner's house, my neighbor across the street. Never thought much of Megan. Polite, quiet, the kind of person you wave at and keep walking. Turns out her camera caught everything. There it was, clear as daylight. Karen and her husband on my porch, me coming out of the garage, calm as can be, saying, I already told you, Karen. No, get off my property. No threats. No hands laid. Nothing but her and her husband acting for the camera. Megan brought that footage straight to the sheriff's office the morning she got back from Oregon. The story I heard didn't match the man I knew, she told them. Just like that, 20 days in a cell, Gone with 45 seconds of footage. Charges dropped. Name cleared, though I doubt the stain will ever really come out. They handed me my wallet, my keys, my dead phone. I listened to Megan's voicemail in the parking lot. She just said, "Hope to God it helps. You don't deserve this." That's the kind of person who matters, you know? Freedom tasted stale. I sat all night in a diner, turning the facts over and over. Rage turned cold, sharp, focused. I called Clarence Baylor, an old army buddy turned civil rights bulldog. By the end of the week, we'd filed 3 lawsuits: malicious prosecution against Karen and her husband, civil rights abuse against the HOA, negligent misconduct against the sheriff. Clarence wasn't kidding around. He hired a PI who dug up Karen's real game. 3 previous owners, same playbook, all squeezed out for pennies, all threatened and vanished from town records. Extortion, plain and simple. Then the twist, an anonymous package, a flash drive packed with emails between Karen and Lieutenant Holland, the sheriff's man who'd arrested me. They talked about expedited enforcement, non-cooperative owners, pushing boundaries while the old guard is asleep. We got the county's original GIS data. The map the HOA used was digitally faked. My land had always been outside their reach. Megan stepped up, turned over more footage, tracked down a former HOA board member who confirmed everything. She testified. Hell, she brought coffee to every meeting, became the one person who could make me laugh when everything else felt like wet concrete. By the time trial rolled around, we had the town's attention. Courtroom was packed. Press, neighbors, even a few folks suddenly claiming to be my friends. Karen sat across the aisle, smaller than before, brittle, her lawyers sweating through a cheap suit. Clarence laid out our case: videos, emails, the forged map. Megan told her truth, simple, steady, no drama. The verdict landed like a sledgehammer. Guilty, false reports, forged documents, conspiracy, attempted fraudulent acquisition. Her husband got perjury and conspiracy. The judge didn't hold back. 12 years for her, 7 for him. HOA dissolved, assets frozen, federal investigation underway. My record cleared, official apology, $920,000 in damages. Enough to buy freedom twice over. But you know what really satisfied me? Watching Karen get let out in cuffs, clipboard nowhere in sight, her voice finally silent. I sold the house a month later, full price, no games. Left the tools, the smoker, a note for the new owners. This land is yours. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Packed up, headed north. Montana felt like the world exhaling. Pines, dirt, space. A town with one stoplight, and not a single HOA. I'd barely finished digging the cabin's foundation when Megan showed up in her old Subaru, 6-pack in hand. We sat on the tailgate, watched the sun disappear, said almost nothing. She'd left Colorado, too. Done with the fakes, done with scripts she didn't write. The cabin grew slow, by choice. She stayed, helped paint the kitchen sage green, made fun of my coffee, laughed at things I thought I'd forgotten. We married a year later, on the porch, with a stray dog for a witness and a hand-painted sign out front. HOA free zone, forever. Folks see that sign and smile. They don't know the story, but maybe that's the point. The people who matter already do. So here's my question for you. Where do you draw your line? When someone tries to take your piece of the world, do you roll over, or do you fight back, even if it means burning down every bridge behind you? Tell me in the comments, what's justice to you? Where does community end and control begin? And hey, if you've ever tangled with an HOA, I want to hear your war story. Smash that like button if you think I did the right thing. Subscribe if you want more true tales of real folks taking their lives back, one fight at a time.